There comes a point in your life where Allah slowly disconnects you from the world, not to punish you, but to free you. The people you relied on become distant. The ones you trusted stop showing up. The ones you thought you needed begin to fade. And suddenly, you're left alone with your thoughts, your heart, and the silence you've been avoiding for years. But this loneliness isn't a curse. It's a correction, a divine reset, because as long as you depend on people for happiness, you will always live unstable. But the moment you learn to stand with Allah, even when no human stands with you, that is the moment you begin to taste real peace. Happiness doesn't come from people staying. Happiness comes from your heart stopping its chase. A believer becomes strongest in the same moment he becomes independent of creation and fully dependent on the Creator. 1. People are not meant to complete you. Only Allah can. Many people spend their lives hoping someone will come and heal their emptiness. A friend, a partner, a family member, anyone who can take away the loneliness inside. But the truth is, no human being was created to complete you. They can comfort you for a moment, but they cannot fill your soul. They can sit beside you, but they cannot fix what's happening inside you. The longing you carry is not a longing for people, it's a longing for Allah. And until your heart connects to Him, nothing in this world will ever feel enough. Every time you depend on a person to complete you, you place a weight on them they were never created to carry. You expect them to save you, heal you, understand you, and be there for you endlessly. And when they fail, because humans always fail, you feel broken all over again. Not because they were bad, but because you put divine expectations on human shoulders. Allah didn't create people to be your source of peace. He created them to be companions on your journey. Peace comes only from the one who created your heart. When a person becomes your emotional foundation, you live in fear of losing them. You adjust your personality to please them. You hide your pain so they won't leave. You compromise your values just to keep them close. You start believing that without them, you'll fall apart. And that's exactly why Allah sometimes removes them, not to hurt you, but to save you from worshiping the creation instead of the Creator. He breaks attachments that threaten your relationship with Him. People were never meant to fill the emptiness of your heart. They were meant to walk beside you while Allah fills it. The emptiness you feel isn't a sign that you are weak. It's a sign that you are trying to survive on something your soul cannot live on. Your heart was designed for remembrance, for tawakkul, for connection with Allah. When you disconnect from Him, your soul immediately begins to starve. And no amount of love from people can feed a starving soul. Every time you cling to someone for completion, you lose a piece of yourself. You begin to forget who you are without them. Your confidence fades when they're not around. Your self-worth shrinks if they stop validating you. Your happiness depends on their mood, their approval, their presence. And this emotional dependence becomes a chain you can't escape. Allah wants better for you. He wants your worth to come from Him, not from the way someone else treats you. True completion comes when your heart feels whole without anyone standing beside you. When you wake up and your peace doesn't depend on who texted you. When you smile without needing a reason from people. When you feel confident because Allah sees you, not because someone compliments you. That is the kind of wholeness Allah teaches through solitude. He removes people so you return to the one who never leaves. He empties your hands so you reach for His. The more you try to make people complete you, the more disappointment you will face. Humans change. They get busy. They get annoyed. They get tired of carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to them. But Allah never changes, never becomes tired, never distances Himself from a heart that calls on Him sincerely. He is the only one who can fill the void inside you without ever taking from you. He gives strength without draining, love without conditions, comfort without limits. When you finally stop seeking completion from people, you begin to breathe differently. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer beg for attention, you choose who deserves yours. You no longer fear losing anyone, because you know Allah will never leave. You stop relying on human presence to feel safe, because your safety now comes from the one who is always near. And that shift is what makes you emotionally stable, spiritually grounded, and mentally strong. When Allah completes your heart, people become a blessing, not a necessity. You enjoy their company without becoming dependent. You love them without losing yourself. You care for them without worshiping them. You give without expecting anything back. Your relationships become healthier because they're built on strength, not desperation. And when someone leaves, it hurts, but it doesn't destroy you, because your foundation wasn't built on them, it was built on Allah. So understand this truth deeply. No person was created to complete you. Allah is the one who completes your soul, heals your heart, strengthens your spirit, and fills your emptiness. People come and go, but He remains. People change, but He is constant. People disappoint, but He never does. And when you learn to find wholeness with Allah first, every relationship in your life becomes easier, healthier, and more beautiful, because you are no longer seeking from people what only Allah can give. 2. Attachment to creation leads to pain. Attachment to Allah leads to peace. Attachment to people feels beautiful in the beginning. You find comfort in someone's presence, excitement in their attention, stability in their words. You begin to rely on them emotionally without realizing it. But slowly your heart becomes tied to something that was never meant to hold it. You start depending on their mood, their consistency, their responses, their approval. And when they change, even slightly, your heart collapses. This is the nature of attachment to creation. It feels warm at first, but it eventually burns you because no human heart can carry the weight of your emotional survival. People are temporary by design. Their attention shifts, their feelings fluctuate, and their priorities evolve. Yet we attach ourselves to them as if they are permanent, as if they can guarantee our happiness. And every time we do that, Allah shows us the reality of dunya. Nothing in this world stays the same. When you cling to a person more than you cling to Allah, He allows that attachment to break, not to punish you, but to redirect your heart toward the one who never changes, never leaves, and never disappoints. Attachment to creation creates fear. You fear losing them. You fear upsetting them. You fear being replaced, forgotten, or abandoned. You begin to shrink yourself just to keep them close. You sacrifice boundaries, values, and self-respect because your heart is terrified of disconnection. But attachment to Allah creates peace. You don't fear loss because you trust His plan. You don't fear distance because He is always near. You don't fear people leaving because you know the one who stays forever. When you attach your heart to people, their absence destroys you. When you attach your heart to Allah, even if the world leaves you, you remain whole. This doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you love without losing yourself. You care without becoming dependent. You give without expecting humans to give what only Allah can give. You finally understand that any love that replaces Allah becomes a burden, but any love that is placed beneath Allah becomes a blessing. One of the biggest mistakes we make is believing that people are the source of our peace. We tell ourselves, if they stayed, I'd be happier. If they understood me, I'd be calmer. If they loved me more, I'd feel complete. But people don't create peace. They only reflect what's happening inside you. True inner peace doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being connected to Allah. If your heart is empty, no amount of human affection can fill it. If your heart is full with Allah, no amount of human rejection can drain it. Attachment to creation blinds you. It makes you ignore warning signs, tolerate disrespect, and excuse harm. You hold on tighter even when your heart is breaking. But attachment to Allah opens your eyes. It shows you who is sincere and who is temporary. It protects you from falling into relationships that harm your soul. It gives you the courage to walk away from places where your spirit is suffocating. Allah becomes the lens through which you see people clearly. When you rely on people, you live in emotional instability. One argument ruins your entire day. One disappointed look shakes your confidence. One moment of silence makes you overthink everything. But when you rely on Allah, your heart stops reacting to every change. You become stable, grounded, and firm. You realize that emotional peace doesn't come from people never hurting you. It comes from Allah strengthening you so that their actions no longer control your happiness. The more your heart attaches to Allah, the less it clings to what drains it. You begin to enjoy solitude because you feel His presence. You begin to heal from wounds created by chasing the wrong people. You begin to understand why certain relationships didn't work out, why certain people disappeared, and why Allah blocked certain plans. He wasn't ruining your life. He was saving your heart. A heart attached to Him is a heart protected from everything that was never written for you. Attachment to Allah doesn't mean you become emotionless. It means you become emotionally disciplined. You still love, but you love with wisdom. You still care, but you care with balance. You still attach, but you attach without worshiping the creation. You understand that people are gifts, not gods. Blessings, not anchors. Companions, not sources. Your heart becomes free from desperation, and desperation is the source of most heartbreak. So if you find yourself constantly hurt, constantly disappointed, constantly anxious, ask yourself this: did I attach my heart to a person who was never meant to hold it? Because hearts were created for Allah, and anything placed above Him becomes painful. But when you place Allah at the center of your life, every relationship becomes healthier, every moment becomes calmer, and every loss becomes easier to survive. Attachment to creation brings pain, but attachment to Allah brings peace that nothing in the world can break. 3. Solitude is where Allah heals what people broke. There comes a time when Allah pulls you away from everyone, not because you are unworthy of company, but because you are in need of healing that no human hand can provide. Solitude feels heavy at first. The silence feels too loud, the emptiness feels unfamiliar, and the loneliness feels unfair. But what you don't see is that this quiet space is where Allah begins repairing the wounds you kept running from. When the noise of people fades, the voice of your heart finally speaks, and Allah answers in ways you never heard before. People can break you in ways they never take responsibility for. Their actions leave scars, their words leave echoes, and their absence leaves emptiness. But Allah takes you into solitude to wash away the damage they left behind. He strips away distractions so your soul can breathe again. He removes the people who drained you so He can restore your strength. Solitude is not a punishment. It is the operating room of the heart, a place where Allah gently stitches the tears inside you that no one else knew existed. In solitude, the tears you once hid finally become a conversation between you and your Lord. The pain you kept buried becomes a prayer you never knew how to make aloud. Something beautiful happens when you cry to Allah instead of crying to people. The pain doesn't multiply, it dissolves. Every whisper becomes heard. Every heartbreak becomes understood. Every moment of silence becomes a moment of divine attention. People listen to respond, Allah listens to heal. When you step away from the world, you begin to see clearly. You realize who was genuine and who was convenient. You realize what relationships were held together by your effort alone. You realize how much of your identity was shaped by pleasing others instead of pleasing Allah. Solitude strips away illusions. It shows you what is real. It shows you what needs to go and what needs to grow. It shows you that the version of you built for people was weaker than the version Allah is building now. The healing that happens in solitude is deep, quiet, and transformative. You begin to rebuild your self-worth from the inside, not from compliments. You begin to find peace in your own company because Allah is with you. You begin to understand that your heart doesn't need constant attention to feel alive. It needs constant connection with its Creator. The loneliness that used to frighten you becomes a sanctuary where you rediscover your strength, your clarity, and your purpose. People often say they want to heal, but healing requires separation. You cannot heal in the same environment that broke you. You cannot hear your soul if you never sit alone. You cannot rebuild your heart while carrying the voices that destroyed it. Allah removes you from the noise so you can finally hear what He wants for you, not what people expect from you. Solitude becomes the reset that your spirit has been begging for, even if your mind resisted it. In your quiet moments, Allah gifts you with insights, wisdom, and emotional strength you never had before. The wounds that once made you fragile become lessons that make you grounded. The heartbreak that made you weak becomes the reason you turn toward Him with sincerity. And slowly, you notice the shift. You become calmer, less reactive, less affected by the opinions of others. Your heart no longer breaks from the same touch. Your soul no longer trembles at the same words. When Allah is done healing you, you step out of solitude not as the broken person who entered it, but as someone renewed, protected, and strengthened. You carry a peace that people cannot disturb, a confidence that pain cannot shake, and a connection with Allah that loneliness cannot erase. Solitude was never a void. It was a divine intervention, and when Allah heals you in silence, He prepares you for a life where no one can break you the same way again. 4. Happiness begins. When you stop seeking validation. There comes a moment when you realize that the reason you've been exhausted for years is not because life is hard. It's because you've been trying to please everyone but yourself. You've been shaping your personality to fit expectations, adjusting your feelings to avoid judgment, and silencing your needs to maintain peace. You've been living in a constant performance, hoping someone will finally approve of you. But validation is a trap. The more you chase it, the more empty you feel. And Allah sometimes isolates you, so you finally stop living for people and start living for Him. Seeking validation is like drinking salty water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. You start basing your happiness on compliments that fade, on attention that shifts, on opinions that change overnight. One negative comment can crush you, and one ignored message can ruin your day. Your self-worth becomes a fragile thing, controlled by people who don't even understand you. But happiness begins the moment you realize that people's opinions are not the measure of your value. Allah's opinion is, people will admire you today and criticize you tomorrow. They will praise you when they benefit from you and forget you when they don't. Their validation is temporary, selective, and inconsistent. If you tie your happiness to their words, your life will always feel unstable. But when you tie your happiness to Allah, to pleasing Him, seeking His nearness, and following His guidance, you discover a peace that no person can touch. The heart was never created to depend on the approval of those who cannot even control their own hearts. When you stop seeking validation from people, you stop shrinking yourself to fit their comfort. You stop hiding your talents, your dreams, your personality just to avoid criticism. You stop apologizing for existing. You no longer feel the need to justify your choices to people who don't understand your journey. You begin to live authentically, not anxiously. And authenticity brings a type of happiness that performance never can. Validation seeking destroys joy because it forces you to continuously sacrifice yourself. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay silent when you deserve to speak, and you remain in places that drain you simply because you fear disappointing someone. But true happiness comes when you honor your boundaries, protect your heart, and choose what aligns with your values, not what satisfies someone else's ego. You begin to feel alive when you stop betraying yourself to be accepted. Allah did not create you to be a prisoner of public opinion. He created you to be a believer, someone whose worth comes from their sincerity, character, and connection with Him. When you realize this, the world loses its power over you. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop chasing likes and approval. You stop overthinking every step you take. Your happiness becomes internal, not external, rooted in your heart, not in people's reactions. As you detach from validation, something amazing happens. Your confidence grows. Not the loud confidence that needs applause, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing Allah is with you. You no longer fear being judged because you know Allah knows your intentions. You no longer fear being misunderstood because Allah understands your heart. You no longer fear being overlooked because Allah never overlooks those who turn to Him sincerely. This kind of confidence makes you emotionally unshakable. And finally, when you stop depending on people to validate your worth, you begin to attract better people. Those who love you for who you are, not for what you provide. Those who support your growth without feeling threatened. Those who don't need you to perform to earn their approval. This is the blessing Allah gives after the lesson. He replaces fake validation with genuine connection. And that is when you realize happiness never came from being liked by everyone. It came from finally liking yourself and from knowing that Allah already loved you long before anyone else did. 5. Depending on people weakens you. Depending on Allah strengthens you. Depending on people feels comforting at first. You lean on their presence, their reassurance, their attention, and their support. But slowly, without noticing, your emotional stability becomes tied to them. If they're kind, you feel safe. If they're distant, you feel abandoned. If they're busy, you feel unimportant. Your heart becomes fragile because it's being held by hands that were never designed to carry it. Depending on people weakens you, not because they are bad, but because Allah never created human beings to be the foundation of your peace. People are limited. They get tired, confused, distracted, and overwhelmed. They cannot always show up for you, even if they want to. They cannot read your heart, understand your silence, or heal your wounds the way you hope. So when you depend on them too much, you end up disappointed over and over again, not because they failed, but because you expected permanence from the temporary and perfection from the imperfect. This emotional dependence drains you, breaks you, and makes you feel unstable even when life is calm. But when you depend on Allah, everything changes. You no longer fear loss, because nothing you need can be taken from you without His permission. You no longer fear uncertainty, because you trust the one who controls destiny. You no longer panic when someone leaves, because you know Allah remains. Depending on Allah strengthens you by grounding your heart in something unchanging. His support doesn't shift with mood, distance, or time. His mercy doesn't run out. His love doesn't fade. His protection doesn't fail. Depending on people bends you. You mold yourself to their expectations, shrink your voice to avoid conflict, and carry emotional weight that was never yours. You walk on eggshells, afraid of disappointing them. You fear losing their approval more than you fear losing your own peace. But depending on Allah straightens you. It builds your backbone. It gives you dignity, confidence, and inner strength. You no longer live to satisfy people. You live to satisfy the one who knows your soul better than you do. When your heart depends on Allah, you stop reacting so intensely to human behavior. Someone ignoring you no longer destroys you. Someone criticizing you no longer crushes you. Someone walking away no longer shatters you. You become emotionally stable because your happiness is no longer tied to people's presence or absence. Your heart becomes anchored in something higher, in worship, in prayer, in tawakkul, in the certainty that Allah is always with you, always listening, always guiding. Depending on Allah does not make you cold or detached. It makes you balanced. You still love people, but you don't worship them. You still care for them, but you don't collapse without them. You still give your heart, but you don't hand it over completely. You hold relationships with kindness, but you hold Allah with your entire soul. This balance makes you strong because you stop losing yourself every time someone disappoints you. The strongest people are not the ones who never feel pain. They are the ones who feel pain but return to Allah instead of depending on the world to save them. They stand back up because Allah lifts them. They heal because Allah heals them. They remain calm because they trust His plan more than they trust their fears. Their strength is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and unbreakable. It comes from knowing that they are supported by the one who never leaves any heart that seeks Him. So if life has shown you that depending on people only makes you weaker, don't let that discourage you. Let it redirect you. Allah didn't break your dependencies to isolate you. He broke them to strengthen you. He wants to free your heart from everything unstable and attach it to what is eternal. Because when you stop depending on people and start depending on Allah, you don't just become stronger. You become someone nothing in this world can break again. 6. When you become whole alone, Allah sends the right people at the right time. There comes a moment in your healing journey when you finally stop searching for people to complete you. You stop begging for attention, stop chasing validation, stop adjusting yourself to be accepted, and stop waiting for someone to save you from your loneliness. Instead, you learn how to sit with yourself. You learn how to enjoy your own company. You learn how to let your heart breathe without relying on anyone's presence. And it is in that very moment, when you become whole alone, that Allah begins preparing the right people to enter your life at the right time. You see, Allah does not send blessings into a heart that is still dependent on the wrong things. If you are still seeking comfort from people, He will not send you someone who brings comfort. If you are still chasing love desperately, He will not send you someone who gives stable love. If you are still attached to what harms you, He will not bless you with what heals you. Allah waits until your heart is anchored, not hungry, whole, not wounded, stable, not desperate. Only then does He send those who add to your peace instead of becoming your source of it. Becoming whole alone doesn't mean you stop wanting connection. It means you stop needing unhealthy connection. You no longer cling to people out of loneliness. You no longer accept disrespect out of fear of being alone. You no longer tolerate mistreatment because you think it's the best you can get. Your standards rise. Your self-worth increases. Your heart becomes wiser. And when your heart reaches that level of strength, Allah brings people who match your growth, not your wounds. The right people, the ones Allah sends, don't drain you. They don't confuse you. They don't make you question your worth. They don't disappear when you need them. They walk beside you, not ahead of you or behind you. They bring clarity, not chaos. They bring sincerity, not competition. They bring dua, not jealousy. They bring support, not wounds. And the reason they feel so different is because Allah chose them for you, not because you chased them for yourself. When you are whole alone, you attract relationships built on purpose, not panic. You no longer fall in love with potential. You choose people based on character. You no longer accept temporary attention. You value consistency. You no longer fear being alone. You fear losing your peace. The emptiness that once made you settle now becomes the reason you are selective. And Allah honors that selectiveness by sending souls who love you for His sake, not for their convenience. Sometimes the delay in meeting the right people is not because Allah is withholding. It's because He's still preparing you. He's teaching you patience, boundaries, discernment, and emotional independence. He's removing unhealed patterns, old wounds, and emotional weaknesses that would ruin what He has written for you. Allah is too wise to give you something beautiful before you are ready to protect it. He doesn't want you to sabotage your blessing with your old pain. When the right people arrive, you will understand the wisdom behind every closed door and every lonely night. You will look back and thank Allah for every person who left, every relationship that didn't work, every friendship that faded, every delay that frustrated you. Because what He gives you in replacement will carry peace, loyalty, sincerity, and emotional safety, things you never had when you were broken and searching from a place of emptiness. So don't fear being whole alone. Don't fear walking your path without company for a while. Don't fear the silence where Allah is rebuilding you. Because once He completes your heart, He will send people who don't break it. He will send companionship that feels like mercy, not a test. He will send love that leads you closer to Him, not away from Him. Becoming whole alone is not the end of connection. It is the beginning of receiving the right one. Being alone doesn't mean you're unloved. It means Allah is teaching you how to love from a place of strength, not need. It means He's pulling your heart away from people who were draining you, distracting you, or defining you. Because the truth is simple. Happiness built on people collapses when they leave, but happiness built on Allah stays no matter what changes around you. When you stop depending on others to make you feel valued, you begin to see your worth through the eyes of the one who created you. When you stop chasing approval, your heart starts to breathe. And when you finally become peaceful alone, Allah brings the right people into your life, not to fill you, but to walk beside you. So don't fear being alone. Fear depending on what was never meant to sustain you. Because once you find happiness with Allah, you will never again beg the world to make you feel whole.